Greetings my little guzzlers. We're going to make some bread. We're going to be making a sort of a sourdough bread. It's a hemp seed loaf, and we're going to start by preparing the initial sort of ferment. All we're going to need for that is some whole grain rye flour. I've got this dark rye flour, it doesn't look that dark there, but that's what I'm using. 100% wholemeal, and I've got 125 grams of that in there. I've got 125 grams of water, and I've got 125 grams of my fresh starter. I've given that a bit of a stir so it's collapsed down a bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to add the water to that. We're going to add in that sourdough starter, and then all I'm going to do is give that a good mix together, and then we're going to cover it with some cling film once all that flour is incorporated, and we're just going to then let it stand for at least 16 odd hours. We want this to be nice and bubbly, and then tomorrow we'll be coming back to it and just scrape that off of there or something. We'll come back to that, and then we'll carry on making the rest of the loaf. And I'll also tell you a little bit about why we're putting hemp seeds in it, and a little bit about hemp seeds. So that's that got started. So here we are, 18 hours later. A fresh mug of coffee, and my starter I've transferred to this bowl, which has knocked some of the gas out of it, if you like. It almost, I would say, tripled in size. I was a bit worried at first because it was quite a thick starter, but you want 250 grams of that, and as it happens that's exactly what I had, but it's obviously quite deflated now. So the remaining ingredients we're going to want is 400 grams of whole wheat flour, wholemeal, 125 grams more of that rye flour that we used, so I'll use that dark rye, 280 grams of water, 11 grams of salt, and we're going to be putting hemp seeds in it. Remember, I've already weighed out 75 grams of them, but we don't actually put them in at this stage. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to combine those two flours. I'm going to add in that salt, and then we're going to add in the starter. Like I say, you want 250 grams. As it happens, that's exactly what I had in the big bowl. I think I've just created more washing up for myself. So we then add in that water, and like I say, at this stage we're not using the hemp seeds, so I'm now just going to give this a good mix together. I use my hands at the end, and all I'm going to do now is I'm just going to wet my surface and tip that dough out, and we're going to use that bowl for the proving, and then just using my wet hands, and if need be add a little bit of extra water as I go. We're now just going to knead this for about 10 to 15 minutes. After the kneading, before we put it in the bowl to prove it, we've of course got to add our hemp seeds. So probably most people sort of know what hemp is, or think they do. Hemp seeds have been around for a very, very long time. And more recently, certain health benefits of hemp seeds has come to light. Now, the outer sort of husk or shell, if you like, of the hemp does have these sort of hallucinogenic properties, but they're usually, well, I say usually, they are removed in sort of food production, if you like, and we're just left with the individual seed. Now hemp, you'll notice by the way I'm keeping my hands wet. The dough is wetter now because of the amount of water I've been using, but every time it starts getting a little bit sticky, you can see by adding the water it is actually stopping it sticking to everything. Hemp is grown pretty much all over the world. I don't think there's many places we can't find it. Grows just about most climates and conditions. But they are highly nutritious. I'm just feeding, and I'll pause in because I've just noticed now the dough is getting a lot sort of springy or stretchy, if you like. It's quite textured because of the wholemeal flour that I'm using, but the gluten is beginning to develop nicely. So, saying about the nutritious benefits of hemp seed, it contains copper, manganese, zinc, potassium, antioxidants, but also a bit sticky in a minute. But also it contains omega-6 and omega-3 acids, and they just happen to be in the exact right ratio for optimum brain function. So you need your omega acids for a decent brain. And actually there's not that many foods that contain these omega acids, or even in the right, well, I don't think anything else contains it in the right quantities. Now, these hemp seeds are pretty much whole, but like I say, they've sort of been dehusked, if you like. They're very nutty, and part of that is due to the fact they're actually hollow, and the hollowness is what, and the fact that they're obviously a little bit on the hard side, if you like, gives them this crunch when you're eating them. Now, if this is starting to get too sticky, one thing you can do is utilise your dough scraper to scrape it off and just basically start folding it, a bit like you do with any other sourdough. So, like I say, they're hollow, which tends to make them a bit more crunchy, sort of almost brittle texture. And you can use them in your cooking, like we're going to do. We're cooking them in bread. You can sprinkle them as they are over your salads, over your cereals. You can make hemp milk, hemp oil. Put them in smoothies. So basically, you know, they have a wide range of use and they're well worth eating. So I've got 75 grams there, and shortly what we will do is we will make sure they're spread evenly throughout that dough. But I've still got a little bit of time left on me kneading. At this point, it's had 15 minutes, and all I'm going to do is I'm just going to spread this out. I've used most of the water that was in that bowl, so I've just topped that up a little bit. And now all I'm going to do is I'm just going to sprinkle these over that bread, and then we're going to carry on kneading it until the seeds are all fully mixed through the bread. I had been using my dough scraper as well as using the water. So just carry on like before, just mixing it. Like I say, what we're trying to do is get them hemp seeds fully mixed in. I'm now just going to pick that ball up, put it in there, cover it over it, and like I say, we're now going to put that by for about 4 hours. We're not expecting to double in size, but we are expecting it to increase slightly. And then after that first sort of bit of proving, we'll be ready to prepare it, and we're going to cook this in a banneton, or rather we're going to prove it in a banneton. It is risen quite significantly, so I'm going to turn it out at this point. I've just added some rye flour to my banneton. Okay, you don't have to prove it in a banneton, but it's entirely up to you. But if you do, obviously make sure it is well floured. Now I'm just going to add a little bit of flour here, just so that I can knock this back a little bit, get the air out of it, and then I'm just going to shape it into a ball, as it were, and plonk it in that banneton. Now, because of the rye flakes that I'm using, this is quite textured, if you like. So I'm just adding a little bit to the top, and now that's going to go into there, and I'm just going to add a little bit of flour around the sides, and now that's going to be covered again, and we're going to put that by until that is risen, hopefully doubled in size. So that could be, well, you can at this stage, if you want, shove it in your fridge and do it overnight, but not having a lot of success doing it that way, so instead we're going to do this again for about 4 hours if needed. Okay, like I say, we want to get it to a nice rise on it, and then we'll be ready to put it in the oven. And I'm going to cook this in my bread cloth. You can, if you want, just put it onto like a pizza stone, baking stone, and cook it that way. So this has had, I think again, about only 2 hours, and you can see how much that's risen. Finger press, it's springing back, but not straight away. It's leaving a little dent, so that suggests it's proved enough. I've got a spray bottle. I've got my lame, I still can't remember how to pronounce that. And I've got my Dutch oven in the oven. It's currently on maximum to get the Dutch ovens, the cloth, sorry, nice and hot. Now we have to work quite quickly. I'm going to get the cloth out. We're then going to tip that onto it, but remember, it's going to be bloody hot. Without pick glove beat on. So working quite quickly here, and then in this point I've got to try not to touch cloth. I'm going to score it, give it hopefully a classic ear, and then I'm just going to give it, I was about to put that lid up then, and now we're going to put that back in the oven, but I'm going to turn my oven down to about 220, and we're then going to cook it in there, covered up for 30 minutes, and then I'm going to remove the top, and we're going to then carry on cooking it at a slightly lower temperature, about 190, for about another 10-20 minutes, whatever it takes to make the bread, or to get the bread cooked. So here it is, our final hemp seed loaf. Still warm, and with any kind of sourdough really you need to let it fully cool, otherwise it will end up being quite moist, so you need to fully cool it, but wanted to give it a go. Quite a dense loaf, dense crumb if you like. Got a nice crisp crunch. A nutty sort of crunch from the hemp seeds. Try it with a bit of butter. Can't say that tastes any different really to any other rye bread I've had. But very nice, even though I said shouldn't slice it when it's warm. Very nice, warm with butter. There you go. There's your healthy, well, the hemp seeds are healthy, hemp seed loaf.